Today I'm working on my 2007 BMW X5 E70 model. I'm going to be changing out the front wheel bearings. I've noticed for quite a while now that there's what sounds like tire rumble, and it's getting more pronounced as time passes on. Typically when a wheel bearing fails, it would be very obvious and it would progress very aggressively. It would start as like a light rumble and then go into a groan and then to like a grinding sound that would change. It would actually change tone based on the way you steer the wheel. Let's say you're changing lanes, changing to the right lane. It can put a load on the opposite wheel and you'll hear it on the left side and whatnot. But on the X5, I even searched about it. I was a little surprised. It just kind of sounds like it's, if anything, it's progressing so slow that I could leave it like this for quite a long time. But I want to take care of it now. I found a good deal on some bearings. It sounds like tire rumble, best way to put it. I changed out my tires like a year and a half ago, and literally with fresh brand new tires, it made literally zero difference in the sound. So this video is going to be showing you how to change out your front wheel bearings on an E70 X5. I'll unbox the ones I bought and show you what you'll need to buy if you want to do this yourself. Here's a piece complete with a new hub. And luckily this is a bolt-in style. So it makes the job a hell of a lot easier than normal. You don't need to press your hub on or anything. There's a set of two. Both pieces were 69 bucks delivered to my door. And one thing that's mandatory is you need to purchase 2 axle bolts. The actual end of the drive shaft. That goes here. Like that. We have to change those. It's mandatory to change those because they're a one-time use. You have to knock the edges down and lock it in. So once you've used it once, you can't use it again. I'm sure someone will ask, so here's the actual listing for the axle nuts. You're going to need 2. Here's the listing for the wheel bearings. It's a set of 2. FYI, these axle nuts were 7 something each. So this was about 70 bucks for the 2 delivered. This was about 15 bucks for the 2. So like 85 bucks for 2 new hubs, bearings with the actual hub itself pressed into the bearing assembly. So it's a crazy deal, I guess, just Chinese parts. I didn't go OEM on this, but at the end of the day, I'm sure these will be better than what's on there. I'm going to take a clip with my cell phone as well, just because it has a really sensitive microphone. So we'll get the car jacked up and get the wheels off now. I'll get that wheel buzzed off. I have an impact gun, which will make that easier for me. Okay, got the wheel off, and I'm going to place the jack stand underneath right here. That's right where the lower control arm meets the actual subframe. Right there. I'm going to lower this onto that right now. And we'll leave the jack in place to support the car while we work. Now what I'd recommend before you do anything, before you take apart your brakes, is either, hopefully you'll have an impact gun to do this, but if you don't have an impact gun, then you're gonna have to get a long breaker bar. You may want to actually pop your center cap out of your wheel there, pop it out, bolt the wheel back on loosely, put it on the ground, and then get a long breaker bar to actually try to crack that free. I believe it's 310 foot-pounds of torque, so even like a home entry-level impact gun on like a small air compressor may not do it, but you might as well try to go after that. Make sure you have the ability to release that before you go get busy taking everything apart. So if you notice here, on the actual end of that right there, and on the other side, it's kind of pressed in. It's like hammered into a notch. Here's the new one, and you have to hammer that in to lock it in place so it doesn't come free. So I'm gonna get a screwdriver and knock those out, and then get my impact gun ready. So use a screwdriver you don't care so much about, or if you have a punch ideally, that would be great. And then just get a heavy hammer, get underneath it. So you get the idea. I'm going to do that on both sides now. The next step is going to require a 36mm 12-point socket. This is actually 3/4 drive. It's more common to find them like this, so I have an adapter. I don't recall exactly what I bought this for. I think it was from like my E46 oil filter housing, but it's a good common size to have. So I put my adapter in there. I'm going to set on here. I have a Milwaukee M15 impact gun set to full power. I think it's good for 700 foot-pounds of torque. So there should be no big deal for it. This is a really awesome impact gun. It makes the job piece of cake. So I got some PB Blaster penetrant. I'm going to spray in here and let it do its work while I release everything else. We'll just let that penetrate for a while and eat up any corrosion that could interfere with us being able to knock that free. So we'll let that set, and I'll get busy on the next step. Next up, get a 6mm Allen so we can crack this free. Shouldn't take much. We gotta take this caliper off. We're gonna take it off complete with the actual bracket, and we're gonna set it up on top of a jack stand just out of our way. Just to make moving the bracket, the caliper a little bit easier, I just get a screwdriver to just take some pressure off the actual caliper so that it's not binding right up against the rotor, and I can pull it off after. Now we'll go after the actual bolts on the back of the caliper bracket. The bolts for the caliper bracket are actually E-Torx, so you can also use a 14, just the same. Just make sure it's seated on there well. So I made my life a little easier by using my impact to knock these free. They were actually decently tight. So I would take the bottom one all the way out. Make sure how much slack I'm going to have on this line. So I may want to actually check the sensor. You want to make sure that your spring comes along with it when you do that. And you can just pop this off, take it off. I can leave it there, but that way I can set the caliper off to the side. I'm getting caught up still because of the lip on the rotor. rotor. Should be prepared for that, but just watch that rotor doesn't fall on you when you're doing this. So I could set it off to the side now. Probably over here is better. Get this off. Now we can see how it bolts in. So I'm going to spray down these bolts with PV Blaster. There's 4. And we'll let that soak for a bit. I think it's going to be easier to remove this clip here. I can get this right out of the way properly. You can see how I placed it. So I have these bolts soaking in PV Blaster right now for the front of the hub. But just a few light taps around here, see if it actually moves. If not, maybe I'll get a punch and do it in the center as you're supposed to. But it depends on how much resistance it's going to give me. I don't think this part's absolutely necessary, but it's only 4 bolts and I want to get this shield out of the way. If anything, it'll be good for just for video purposes to show you more of what's going on. But you guys may want to do that yourself as well. What I want to verify is by looking at one of these hubs. Let's first things first, verify that they're identical. So they're tighter spaced at the top, wider spaced at the bottom. Otherwise it looks the same. The actual sensor for ABS doesn't seem to have to come out. You don't have to mess with that, because it's only going in that far. It's almost flush. So it just sits right there. Whatever's going on with that sensor is way behind this. It's somewhere on the actual axle. So yeah. I don't think I have the right socket or the right bit to take that out, to take the actual bearing out. I think this bracket needs to be removed up here to give us better access, but I'll get you a shot of that. So this bracket here is a 5mm Allen. There's 2. Because this gets right in the way of one of the bolts on the back side. Now, if I really wanted this out of my way, I could take this off and just let it hang down on the side here. So let's see how bad that is. Just to be better to not damage anything. That's coming off real easy. Yeah, might as well. It's your ABS sensor. You can take all this, get it nice and out of the way. There, it's far out of the way now. And from as far as I can tell, I'm touching all the bolt heads I have in the room here. You want to put the steering wheel straight so that it's less chance of hitting here with your socket. I don't think this needs to come out. This way our end link doesn't seem to need to come out. So I just need the proper bit, and then I can go after these. I can easily see getting clear access to these. So we'll continue on once I have that bit. Okay, we're back from the auto parts store. I picked this up, it was like $7. It's a 12-point Torx bit. We're going to use this to take the bolts out of here now. So coming around to the back here, you can see right there. This will be inserting this tool. Just fits on like that. And plenty of access, as you can see. So I'm going to use an adapter and 1/2" drive to knock that free. Lots of clear access, which is good. It's I believe it's torqued to 80 foot-pounds, so we'll do that now. Okay, so I got the bolt out, one of the bolts, but I needed my impact on. So slight issue. If I turn the wheel all the way to the left to turn these out, there's stuff behind this spindle that's going to interfere, sway bar, shock, etc. for me getting my gun on there. And I don't know if I want to try the breaker bars or not. I'm a little concerned with the amount of torque I took. So I'm going to take off this sway bar end link, and I'm going to take off this upper mount here so that we can pry that off and then tilt the whole assembly forward. Let's see how much room we can get. I want to be conscious of not pulling that axle out of the transmission or the transfer case. But yeah, it's looking like I need to do that. So we'll get this off and get the sway bar and link off and get that upper mount off and just see how to look at how much easier do things become. And I'll let you know if this step was even necessary or if it was a waste of time. The buzz is not up, and I'm going to punch this out now using a punch. This piece is actually loose. It sits in here. Took that out. I've wedged a punch in here to spread this, so I can give that a couple knocks and knock it free. I don't think this is going to come flying down either because of that. Because of where I placed my jack stand. I'll keep going after that until it's popped off. Okay, no major drama there. That came out in a very controlled manner. So this is wedged in there, so that's why it allowed for clearance for that to pop up. Now the whole thing wants to move forward quite a bit, and there's lots of flexibility on this, but the axle is actually still part of, it's still pressed in there real good. I own a 3-jaw puller, pretty decent one, so why don't I give that a shot? This will do the trick, push the axle in enough. Alright, so I got that nut back in at the top just to hold it so I can go after this again. Yeah, I just saw the axle move. So I used my puller as much as I could. It got it to the point where it was almost flush. And then I put my punch in here. Now it's moving back and forth, so it's free from the actual splines. Okay, so you can learn from me that I tried. I tilted this all the way forward. Even though I pulled it quite a far bit out, the inner axle doesn't. It's got tons of travel, so it's not really much of a concern. But it becomes. I tried putting my impact on it full force, and no dice for releasing the bolts. So then I got a breaker, and it didn't feel that crazy. So maybe both my batteries are weak on the Milwaukee, or whatever the story is. You can probably leave this up attached, and you can leave your sway bar attached. Get to those 2 bolts and get to these 2 bolts without touching all that. But I'll leave it in the video. It kind of helped with like getting that axle pushed in and having some free play for it to go back. But I don't think you need to do that. So just assume that if you really wanted to, a long Johnson bar behind your bit should take some decent leverage to crack those free, and then you can do it by socket. So I'll get that last bolt out and we'll pull it off. So I got this last, I turned the wheel all the way to the left, and I got the last bolt, which is right here, with the breaker bar. Now we can go in with the socket. So I'm going to recommend that you guys, if you're going to need an impact gun, it would be really helpful to have it, especially for the front axle bolt, and compressing the actual axle in a little bit so that it releases from the hub splines. But back here, I'm going to recommend you just use a breaker. On all 4 bolts you'll be able to get to it. A long breaker bar, and then finish it off with a 1/2-inch drive. Just leave this upper, you don't need to take this off. You don't need to take that off. And even, yeah, I would say leave that alone. And just go after this. You're going to want to take your heat shield off anyway to get that swinging room. Or, you know, at least I feel like it will make your life a little easier. So yeah, I'll leave it in. I'll skip through it real quickly, but you know, I'll summarize after how I think you should do things. I would say break the bolts free with your breaker bar on the back side, use impact gun on the front bolt, and an impact gun for the puller. So we'll try knocking this off now and see what happens. So I'm just going to try to hammer at the top. It came 3, but the splines of the axle are just ever so slightly grabbing. So I probably have to hold this while I use a punch to get that in. Yeah, just a few really light smacks on this actual piece here, the axle. This thing fell right off easily. So we got it off. And we'll go ahead and swap it out now. Just cleaning out the crud from in here. I got that relatively clean. Inside there, there's a bit of corrosion left. Using a bit of Scotch-Brite to smooth that out. There's a big lip here that you can kind of make out. So I want to try to just wire wheel that down. I'll do that now. So that knocked down any heavy corrosion, which helps. Okay, attempting the installation of the new part now. I put some grease on the actual splines, and to clean up these threads a little bit, just to make sure the axle bolt goes on hand tight. So hopefully I can get this started. In there nicely. So get ready with the bolt. We want to do this bottom one because it's easiest to get to. So I'll run that down via ratchet to pull things in, and I'll come back once I have them all hand tight. I think I'm safe to bottom these down because there's literally no play. I'll try to get these other bolts in by hand and at least start it before I bottom those down because you gotta turn the wheel. Yeah, I can get those started, no problem. So yeah, I'm gonna torque those down. You gotta torque it to 80 foot-pounds or 81 foot-pounds. Just FYI. I didn't see any blue Loctite on them. Or any type of Loctite at all. So I'm thinking probably would have been a good idea to put it anyway, just to be safe, just a little smidgen of Loctite. So I'll do that, come back once I've put it all together, and then we'll go from there. So giving it a final torque now. while the wheels turn left, I'll do the bolts toward the front of the car. 81 foot-pounds. So this is going to be how I recommend you remove the 4 bolts, not with the impact. Don't take off the top here, just use a breaker bar on the back side, as I'm showing here. Turn to the left to get the front 2 bolts, turn to the right to get the back 2 bolts. Those are tight. Now I can get busy putting everything back together. Thread on the axle bolt. See how I could do that by hand? I actually had to clean up a couple threads with my Dremel because I had hammered on it a little bit, just very briefly, and I'm like, screw this, I'm gonna mess it up. So don't hit on here using the bolt being spaced out a little bit. That any mechanic will probably tell you that. I knew better. If you're gonna do anything, use this little hole in the center with your punch. So that's a big no-no. You can use your torque wrench on the ground with the wheel back on it to final torque this, but then you'd have to take the wheel back off to knock in those tabs. I got my battery fully charged. I'm gonna use my impact to bottom that down, and then I'll show you when I knock these down. So here we are zoomed in on the hub, and the new bolt is bottomed out, torqued down. So you're gonna get a punch and just get right here, right in the middle of that hole there. And then force it in so that it can't back off while you're driving. Feel it bottom out. Feels nice and smooth when you spin it now. There. We're good to go there. Alright, so we're all put back together. The reinstallation was obviously the reversal of removal. Everything went straight forward. So that's pretty much going to show you how to do it. Do I consider it a job you can do at home? Yes. It's not even terribly difficult. You just got to make sure that you get yourself the M12 12-point Torx, male Torx bit that I showed you. Most people won't have this in their toolbox. This one here. You need the 36 mm axle socket. You need so the 3-jaw puller method that you can get, the 3-jaw puller that I use, you can get at Harbor Freight, and it's relatively inexpensive. Or you could borrow one from your auto parts store. I'm going to recommend that method for separating the hub from the axle. It's really in there. Normally on these cars you need a special tool from BMW to push that in. It's not like it's as soon as you crack it free, it's floppy in there. It's a pretty good fit. So 3-jaw puller, trying to use a 3-jaw puller without an impact, it's not going to be fun. Trying to get this axle nut off without an impact, again, I wouldn't recommend it. So these impact guns are coming down in price nowadays. So I would say if you want to tackle this at home, because at the end of the day I've spent $42 aside, just my time, to get a wheel bearing put on the car, which for a car like this is crazy cheap. So if you don't mind a little bit of labor, I'm going to say if you want to do this at home, have an impact gun with you. You don't have to take all that upper part off like I showed you. I was just experimenting to see if it would make life easier, but it turns out I should have just put a little more leverage on this through my breaker bar as I showed when I was tightening. So impact for the front bolt, impact for pulling it off. Get yourself a $20 3-jaw puller, and yeah, and then you just turn it each way. Take your rotor and caliper off, turn it one way to get the 2 bolts on this side, turn it the other way to get the 2 bolts on that side. You're good to go. So definitely doable at home, but I'm not going to just say you can do this with hand tools. So that's how you change out your wheel bearing on your E70 X5. Thanks for watching and good luck.